Hello and welcome to the Startups of London podcast this week. We have a global business matching platform startup called Findr on our show. And according to their LinkedIn page, they describe the business as a simple platform business for businesses of all sizes to share their partnership requirements and explore opportunities in a matter of minutes and clicks. Users sign up for free, create a profile, post their partnership requirements. If they see a relevant opportunity, they can request a 1-hour discovery call. Users only ever pay for accepted requests, which result in the discovery call. It's just an overview of the business. And today I'm joined by the CEO and the founder, Greg Watts. Greg, welcome to the show.
Oh, Ozan, thank you so much for inviting me.
So does it really work?
Me or the platform?
Let's start with the platform.
No, yes, it does. Yes, it does. So just to give you a bit of background. So, well, first of all, thank you again for inviting me, and thank you for that really good summary. You should come work with us. But yeah, it really does work, I'm pleased to say. So we conceived Findr because I was frustrated that it took so long to create business partnerships. Whether you're looking for new sales, new innovation, new clients, new suppliers, new partners, whatever you're looking for, it can often take months, if not years. And I know that to be true because I used to work at Visa. My last kind of corporate job, if you like, was head of partnerships at Visa Europe. And I was responsible for creating partnerships with all the leading retailers and banks and brands across Europe to get them to promote Visa cards. And I knew firsthand how many steps there were involved in creating partnerships. And I just thought this is nonsense. So I always wanted to automate that process. And so I created Findr. So we've often been described as a dating platform for businesses. And we haven't quite embraced that feedback just yet. We've gone as far as saying we're the business matching experts, but a lot of journalists do describe us as a dating platform for businesses where you come on, create a profile for free, tell us about who you are and then what you're looking for. So as I mentioned, whether that's new sales, new clients, new partners, whether you want to enter into a new market, whatever you want to do, whatever your business requirements are, tell us, and then we can help you find solutions to those requirements.
It's actually a very good starting point for a lot of startups. If the founder has experienced in the depths of an industry a specific problem, they can then go out to build a solution. And I think this is especially useful for our younger listeners out there. Just from out of uni, starting a startup has its advantages, but one of the disadvantages is you don't get to experience a very specific problem in a business in a niche area. And in this instance, Greg, you have the advantage of that. You have experienced the problem, the inefficiencies in that. But I think it's still quite difficult to make the leap from a more structured corporate type of a job to being a founder. How did you make that decision?
Oh, I could talk about this for hours, but I'll try and keep it within 3 minutes. So I had lots of corporate roles. I had some great corporate roles across Visa, across T-Mobile, British Gas, generally marketing roles and partnership type roles. I suppose when I was in my corporate roles, I had worked with some brilliant companies, some brilliant brands, and had some great experiences. But there was always something missing. I felt there was always something nagging at me that I couldn't quite put my finger on. And I think what it was on reflection was when you have a corporate role, you're typically defined or you're kept within a certain area. And for an entrepreneur, or if you've got certain entrepreneurial kind of yearnings, if you like, you don't want to be kept in a box in any way. You want to do things. You kind of want to spread your wings and kind of you don't want to be sticking to process and all that kind of stuff. You want to be creating things. So I found the transition from corporate to entrepreneur quite easy because as soon as I kind of embraced the entrepreneurial stuff, if you like, it just felt like I could properly breathe. I wasn't confined to taking things through all sorts of sign-offs and all sorts of governance and all sorts of processes. I was able to make decisions very quickly with my team, perhaps on WhatsApp or Slack, and then the decision was made, and then you move forward. And that's not often the case in a corporate environment. In a corporate environment, you are sometimes more restricted with what you can or can't do. Things often take longer. That all said, if it wasn't for my corporate experience, I don't think I'd be where I am with Findr. So I'm very grateful for that. But we often speak to other founders ourselves, and actually we found that there's quite a lot of slightly older founders and slightly older entrepreneurs who are popping up who have had kind of their stint in the corporate environment and who now want to use that experience to build something themselves. So we're actually finding that it's not always the kind of the younger kind of out of university people in their garages who create businesses now. It's actually some perhaps say older, more mature, more experienced people who have got that experience that can be very beneficial when you're creating a startup.
If my recollection is correct, there's a statistic which actually points out the fact that older founders have more successful startups. So that's definitely in line with that. I've worked in the corporate setting for about 8 years in different companies, and I would say as an entrepreneur myself, it has given tremendous edges and advantages in how I structure my work, how I approach the week, how I delegate, and how I understand bigger systems work. Because once you are a very a small startup, then that might be a difficult thing for the business. But of course, the other end is how do you finance the business? In your case, what's the answer? Is it financed by you? Do you have an external investor, or is it customer funded? What's the story there?
Yeah. Just a little bit of background. So I incorporated Findr on the 10th of March last year, 10th of March 2020, just a week before the first UK lockdown, which I don't recommend to your listeners to start a tech business in the middle of a pandemic. But nevertheless, it happened, so we just had to deal with it. So we all were, obviously, as all of us were, very quickly working from home, and so we built out the business remotely. But I started raising money about 2 weeks after I incorporated the business on my dining room table. And I'd never raised funds before. We targeted friends and family and angels, but I didn't have that experience. I'm certainly used to selling, but asking for money and raising investment is completely different. It's completely different. But I remember my very first conversation with a potential investor who did actually end up investing in Holland, a Dutch investor. And I'm not sure whether I should say this. Well, let's see how it goes. But I described the business to him, and he said, "Oh, it sounds like Grindr for businesses." And I said, and this guy was married to a lady and had a number of children, but he went on quite in a lot of detail describing how Grindr works. But anyway,
suspicious.
So since then, we often describe, whenever we're pitching to investors, and we target angel investors, we often describe Findr as a dating platform for businesses, whether it's a Match.com, a Tinder, a Bumble, or a Grindr, depending on your flavor. But to answer your question, we target angels, and we did our first pre-seed of £150,000 last year. Did that in about 4 or 5 weeks, and then we did a second seed round for £500,000, which we've just closed, and we're about to do another amount for £500,000. And I actually really enjoyed the investment journey. I thoroughly enjoy meeting potential investors, talking to them about the business. You get great feedback, even if it's a no. People often have really good advice, which in our case has really helped to sharpen our proposition. So yeah, we're angel funded. I'm not sure whether we'll go down the VC route. We've just started generating revenue, so hopefully we can continue and just become break even without going down the VC route. But let's see.
What was the first big commercial win for the business so far?
So we launched on October the 30th last year. So we took between April last year and October last year to design, build, research the platform. And we launched on October the 30th. And at the time, we launched to the financial services sector. So Findr is predicated, or Findr grows on launching one sector at a time. So we started with financial services because my last role was at Visa. So I had lots of connections in that area. So we have now got over 400 businesses signed up to Findr who use us, ranging from very early stage businesses to very large businesses like MasterCard, JP Morgan, HSBC, Amazon, Citi, and various others. I'd say the first big win for the business was actually launching the platform on time, on budget on the 30th of October. And I swear that if we hadn't have been locked down, if we hadn't have been working from home, we wouldn't have been as focused as we were. And I know before lockdown, I was guilty of probably going from meeting to meeting, having far too many coffees, and getting to the end of the day and often wondering what had I achieved in that day. But being at home, all of the team being at home, we were very focused on building out the platform. So I think the biggest win for us was launching on time, on budget on the 30th of October.
Could you walk us through how your algorithm works? How do you do the matching?
Oh, that's a great question. So at the moment, the way that we match is is with keywords. So, for example, if Ozone told us that he was looking to create a partnership in the retail sector in the UK, and he wanted to target grocery retailers with a turnover of above, let's say, £10 million, we'd match him. We'd put forward recommended matches to him based on that criteria. Now, over time, actually, I'll say over time, from this autumn, actually, we're going to start to apply machine learning to the platform so that Ozan will be in his office. And when a business signs up and posts an opportunity that fits what Ozan's looking for, he'll get a push notification saying, hey, Tesco have just signed up. They're looking for a new loyalty program in the UK. We think you'd be perfect. Or it might be that British Airways are looking for a new seatbelt supplier. Whatever the businesses are looking for, if we think that they match with what you have to offer or with what you're looking for, you will eventually get a push notification to your phone, to your desktop, saying, "Hey, click here to request a 1-hour discovery call." So all that users have to do is, if they spot an opportunity that they want to discuss in a bit more detail, they just click a little blue button to request a 1-hour discovery call. That then goes to the person at the other business. They then get the request. They can choose to accept or reject it. If they accept it, they propose 3 1-hour times to speak. The other business that then gets sent a notification saying, "Great news, Tesco, for example, have accepted your request. Please pick one of these slots." And then both users then hold a Findr call within the platform.
That's fantastic. I'm actually signing up for Findr right now, Findr.global.
God bless you.
I've just signed in with my LinkedIn authentication. It was quite easy, so I would urge the listeners to do the same. And I see you have a pay-as-you-go, no monthly fee option, best for startups. I think that's the best one for me. And now I'll select it. I'll enter Startups of London as a business, and I'd love to see it in action. But as far as what I hear from you, it makes a lot of sense. And platforms, I think. And I've tried building a platform business once. It was around recruitment and company culture. And there was this book, I think it was called Platform Revolution. Cannot recall the author's name, but it was actually very insightful. And at the end of the day, though, it's quite simple. They're chicken and egg problems, platform businesses, aren't they? You have to get people from both sides. So how do you crack that problem?
Oh, that's a great question. And first of all, I must say that's very kind of you signing up in real time. And I must say, when you told me that, I was slightly nervous, thinking, I hope he finds the process easy. But no, we have actually had good feedback from our users, and it does take just a couple of minutes to sign up and to create a profile for free. So I hope that you like it, and I look forward to receiving your feedback. But in terms of building out the platform, or some people would say building out the marketplace, you're absolutely right. You need both people on both sides, both the buyers and the sellers. With Findr, all of our users are actually both. So that's the first way that we solve for that. So all of our users sign up. They create a profile telling us about their business, and then they also tell us about their business requirements. So everybody has a set of business requirements, whether that's looking for new clients, looking to launch into new markets, looking to offer whatever services they have to offer. So all of our users actually are both buyers and sellers. So that's the first thing. The second thing that we do is when we launched the platform, well, actually just before we launched the platform, way before we launched the platform in about April last year, we created a very simple landing page which allowed people to sign up for early user access. So we had a lot of people sign up to see who were interested in what we were doing. So whenever we did a piece of whenever we did an interview or a podcast, we'd ask people to sign up for early access, and every 2 weeks we kept that group updated with some information about what we were doing. So anything from a piece of design through to a product feature through to pricing research. Every 2 weeks we kept that group very updated, very engaged with what we were doing. So when we launched in October, we had a good couple hundred users already sign up because they've been following our journey and been very engaged with us from the very early days. We're seeing without any marketing now. We haven't started marketing for a reason. I'll come back to that in a minute. But we're seeing organically somewhere between 10 to 15 new businesses sign up to Findr every week, and that's just through word of mouth. We're quite active on LinkedIn, but we don't we haven't done yet any paid for marketing, because we simply haven't needed to. Rather, our focus right now is making sure that the users who sign up get the best experience from Findr, which is helping them to find relevant opportunities, helping them to get matched, helping them to request a discovery call. Because what we're doing with the whole concept of just requesting a discovery call is quite radical. No one's done it as far as we can see. The traditional way of trying to secure a meeting with someone who you want to do business with is going to LinkedIn, trying to search for that business or that person, or trying to contact them directly, or whatever you do to try and get a meeting with that person. If you haven't met them before, you've got less than a 3% chance of securing a meeting with them. So we're fixing that, because everybody on Findr has told us what they're looking for. So all you need to do is click a little blue button to request a discovery call, and if it's accepted, both users are able to talk about that opportunity together. That's something completely new. So a lot of our focus right now is making sure that we help educate our users on the simplicity of that you just need to request a discovery call just by clicking a little blue button. So on the acquisition side, it's very much a tick, tick, tick for us. Mm-hmm. Our goal right now is engagement, and making sure that our users continue to use us and see the benefit of using us, which they're doing. And we're starting to build a number of case studies. We've got some case studies with some very large businesses actually who have used Findr, and they're telling us that without Findr they wouldn't have found these opportunities. And they're telling us that quite quickly after that first discovery call, they're signing NDAs with these businesses, which we're delighted to hear. And we'll start to build up those case studies, which will help reinforce just how simple we are to use. And you don't have to spend months, if not years, trying to get in front of the right people. Just come onto Findr, sign up, tell us what you're looking for, and then request a discovery call with the key decision maker.
Are you hiring for any new roles now?
Are you asking?
Are any recruitment processes, and what kind of roles are you looking for?
Oh, I was joking. I was saying, are you asking for a job?
Sorry, I misheard you there.
No. No, we are hiring, and we've hired. So we have hired. We've recently hired two team members from the UK government's Kickstart program, which is excellent. It's designed to help 16 to 24-year-olds into work. So we've hired a marketing assistant there and an operations assistant, who we're just about to promote, both of them. We've just hired a chief commercial officer who's going to be starting on the 1st of July. A gentleman called Guy Williams, who used to work at Disney, Dixon's Carphone, Nokia, Vodafone. We've just hired a machine learning engineer to help us build out our matching algorithms, or what we call a recommendation engine. And we're just about to hire a couple more people in our sales team as well. So those people are going to help to bring on new users, but also really focus on what we call customer success, so making sure that our existing users get the most out of Findr. We're not going to hire anyone else before January after those people. The next person will be a product owner around about January time. So we're quite a lean team, but that's important to us, because we've seen lots of startups perhaps maybe make a bit of a mistake by trying to hire too many people too quickly. We don't need lots and lots of people. We've got a platform that works very well. All we need to do is make sure that our users are getting the most out of us, and we can do that with a very small team.
Agreed. So for people listening out there interested in working with Findr, I think they can reach out to you, Greg, or is there a application page on your website? So where should we direct the people interested in working with Findr?
That's very kind of you. Thank you. Well, first of all, please direct to me. My emails that you can find in my LinkedIn profile. It's also Greg at Findr.global, or just come to the platform and sign up. Just takes a couple of minutes, which you can do at www.findr.global.
So my final question, and perhaps one of the most emotional questions for me, because I deeply care about this topic. What is the company culture like? And in specific, when you have disagreements, I think one of the most telling ways to understand the company's culture is how they handle disagreements within the company. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about that for a bit?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I share that passion. And I would say that a business succeeds or fails based on its culture, would be my view. You can have the best idea, as I'm sure you've seen similar examples of businesses with brilliant ideas, but unless they build out the best team with the best culture, it's not going to work, or it's got a very low chance of success, in my opinion. So when I started Findr, culture was the number one and remains the number one and will always be the number one most important part of our business. So for us, it was quite interesting because all of the hires that we've made have been to people that we haven't physically met. However, my COO, my Chief Operating Officer, Jenny James, who is a remarkable leader. Jenny and I used to work together at Dixon's Carphone, and Jenny was running the program team. I was running marketing and partnerships, and we ended up becoming friends. And we said, wouldn't it be great if we could set up our own startup one day? Because Jen has all of the skills that I don't have, which is running the operation. And I've got skills that she does have, but she's perhaps less interested in. So my area of strengths are marketing and sales. So between us, we cover most bases very, very, very well. And we knew what it was like to work together before we started Findr. So that was a real benefit. But culture for both of us is so important. How have we created a culture virtually? Well, we make sure that we have.
It's quite difficult, by the way, and I share. I mean, the physical shared experiences have a huge place. They are very unstructured, but they play a huge role in how people get to know each other, build trust. So it must be quite difficult for people who are just getting to know each other through virtual meetings. It's a difficult bridge to gap, I think. So how do you work around that?
I haven't found it difficult. I found it's simply that you have to be focused on it. So a good structure around the business. So on a Monday, we have our team meetings. We have our regular kind of sessions on a Monday. And then throughout the week, we have regular check-in points with the team. We use tools like Slack as a regular communication tool. We have monthly virtual drinks as well, which have gone down well. We've had some kind of cocktail kind of drinks, and we've had other bits and pieces. Our teams actually spread all around the world as well. So it hasn't just been about onboarding people and creating a culture just in the UK. We've had to also make sure that we instill that and embed that throughout all
Fantastic.
of our. Yeah. But we found that just making sure you've got set structure in place, making sure you've got clear communication in place, making sure you've got clear objectives in place. So, for example, we've got a very clear 12-month plan. We don't see any point in having a 3-year plan because things change every day with a startup. But we've got a very clear 12-month plan, which we review every quarter. And we have for each kind of area within that plan, there's just 2 to 3 objectives. So it's all very simple. So everyone knows. So everyone knows what they need to achieve. And I think part of creating a good, strong culture is making sure everyone knows what they're doing and what their role is and what's expected. And I think that structure for a lot of people helps to drive very positive behaviors and performance. I mean, with our younger team members, with the Kickstart team members, we've got very clear training programs in there. We put in place a good, very intensive 2-week induction, for example. And that's worked really well because we've just promoted both of them within a matter of months. I think, as you probably know, and I'd be keen to hear your experiences of building strong cultures, just communication and structure, I think, are the 2 main things. One last thing I would say actually is around diversity as well. So it's very important to us as a business to have a very diverse team. Now, we're not talking about hiring people just because it ticks the diversity field, but actually hiring the best people for the role, but consciously hiring people who are diverse wherever possible. So we're quite proud of the fact that 50% of our business are women, 50% are men. We have LGBT, we have ethnic minorities, and I think that's also plays a very important part within the culture as well, is having a diverse workforce.
Indeed.
But keen to hear your experiences.
In terms of culture?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's an important topic, but people love to pay lip service to culture. But indeed, a very low percentage of founders actually think and act around building a good culture. So I think there's a mismatch there in my experience. So the interesting story, Startups of London actually started as another project, which was named back then cultureboom.co, and the idea was to provide a productized service type of an offer for startups, so we could build their culture when they were moving from the startup to scale up stage. And it was actually misleading in a way, because there was a lot of approval in terms of the interest, and people have been validating how important was that. But after working on it for 6 months, it became immediately apparent that culture is not a pain point now, but it's a regret point later. That's how I phrased it, as a statement learning from the end of that experience. So I think we have a long ways to go. But what I can hear from you and your approach, I feel confident that you've internalized thinking about culture first, and building that into the very fabric of the business. And I think that's a very big sign of the type of businesses that really succeed and grow well. And in general, I've actually enjoyed talking to you and understanding how Findr works. I have my tab open, and I'll finish up my signing up on Findr. And I would urge for our listeners to do the same. And thank you for joining this chat, Greg. Is there anything you'd like to add before we finalize?
Oh, I'd just like to say a huge thank you. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And yes, it's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All the best of luck with the business.
Thank you.